wonderful, isn't it? Oh,
I don't know. Are we working? If anyone is seeing this,
okay. We're live. No, I think we're live. We're there. We made it. We did a great job. Thank you for our lovely Justine to help in terms of our tech. So yeah, welcome to our event. Apologies that we're a little bit late to the game, but we are really excited to talk to you. My name is Sarah Lewis, and I'm the Director of Grow, Transform, Belong and Penal Reform Solutions. And I'm just going to hand over to Cam to introduce himself as I get my presentation set up. So over to you, Cam.
brilliant. Thank you. So my name is Cam Stevens. I'm a senior digital consultant for Grow, Transform, Belong and Penal Reform Solutions. I'm also the co-founder of the Growth app. Really happy to be here with you today. Again, we apologize for the technical issues that we had early on. For some reason, LinkedIn decided to kick us out. But we're back and we're really eager and excited to talk to you about Justice 2.0. So with no further ado, I am going to pass back to the lovely Dr. Sarah Lewis.
Thanks, Cam. So this is our strategy. We have posted it on LinkedIn and we'll post it again after the event. And we are going to be officially launching this strategy in February. But we just wanted to create just some conversations really and some information sessions to talk to us a little bit about Justice 2.0 and this real need from our perspective to upgrade justice. So it's all for us about collaboration, it's about growth, and it's about transforming our culture more broadly and how we can do that as a global movement and how we can do that together. So Justice 2.0 is calling for an upgrade, and it's that upgrade from our perspective is all about gaining new knowledge. So really embracing lots of different kinds of professionals who've got lived experience of the criminal justice system, as well as people that are in contact with it. It's about it being charged with compassion. So for us to show a really compassionate and kind approach to justice and really to refuel people that are really tired at the minute because of some of the inherent cultural challenges we're facing. It's about courage. So it's about standing up against some of the harmful practices and cultures that exist in our system across the board. It's about growing and building trust within our communities and really recognizing and celebrating success on a much bigger level so that we can really kind of create a counter narrative around criminal justice and creating effective ways to support and grow people. And by doing that, we will service the community and give them the criminal justice system that they deserve, and we will reduce harm as a result of that. That's what our kind of manifesto is all about. So I'm just going to talk you through our vision. So it's about igniting a global movement, and I think there's something about us coming together and having that courage and compassion to be really ambitious and really creative, but also empowering people that maybe aren't currently empowered to capture their voice and to really drive a change within our communities. And we really want to focus and center that on humanity, on growth, on connection and collective resilience. So standing side by side and really focusing on how we can share good practice, how we can motivate each other, and how we can kind of really flourish as a community. So I'm just going to pass over to Cam, who's going to talk a little bit more about our vision and what we want to achieve.
Thank you. So in terms of our vision, what we really want to do is there's a few pillars here that we've highlighted that are really important to the success of I guess this strategy and this movement. So one is connecting the dots to magnify collective impact. There is so much great work that is happening within the criminal justice system, but in terms of, I guess, working together, there is still so many organizations and people that are working in silo. And for us, it's all about how can we magnify that, the reach of the good work that is going on. How can we share those good practices with people so they too can adopt and start to be those change agents that we want to see within the criminal justice system. For us, we're all about collaboration. I think in terms of what is going on within the criminal justice system, not just here in the UK, but I guess globally, we are all feeling the squeeze. Austerity, smaller funding pots means that a lot of people are, on the verge of really struggling to make the impact that they want to do. So we think that collectively, if we work together, we'll be able to magnify that and really drive the narrative that we want to see currently in the justice system here. So apart from that, we also want to provide different ways to contribute and include others. There's some people who have been affected by or work in the criminal justice system that might not want to be in the forefront, might not want to be public facing, but they all want to make a difference. And it's how can we include these people? How can we make them feel that they're a part of something that is bigger than them? I guess from the encounters that we have within the criminal justice system, it's not just about the justice system, it's about society as a whole. We all have a role to play within this. And, you know, if we can, I guess, bring in the community and make the criminal justice system not a criminal justice problem, but a societal problem, where we can make people feel involved, give them a platform, let their views be heard, let their best practices be shared, so that collectively we can move forward together. Outside of that, we want to do a campaign to raise awareness around quality practice within the criminal justice system. I think we're all very much aware that in terms of the rhetoric and the stories that go out into the public domain, a lot of it is really negative because according to the press, bad news sells, and that's what gets people the eyeballs. But we want to create a counter narrative around that and really elevate the good work that is being, I guess, unseen or unappreciated by practitioners and people who are working in the criminal justice system, not just here in the UK, but globally, to give them a platform and really celebrate the work that they are doing. We want to magnify the voices of those in the system to drive change. There are so many good people working in the justice system, and, you know, because of outdated policies, outdated practices, a lot of these people are invisible. They don't feel that they have a right or the capacity to have a voice. And what this leads to is lack of innovation. We've got some really, really creative people who have got so much knowledge, so much understanding and great ideas that can contribute to making our justice system more meaningful. And we want to empower them and give them the tools and the space for them to feel included and to really drive this change. We want to focus on strengths and build from there. So what does that mean? We can sit here and talk about all the things that are going wrong in the criminal justice system, but I think we've all had enough of that in the echo chambers and the conferences that we go to. We just want to act. So why focus on strengths? Strengths build resilience. It builds hope. It builds, I guess, the rhetoric that things are happening. So we just really want to concentrate on what is working, best practices, taking a more humane approach to the criminal justice system, because we know that there is evidence that backs it up, that it works. And finally, we want to involve our communities for people-powered movement. One of the things that is, I guess, really, what's the word I can think of? I guess discouraging from my perspective is the fact that we're not involving the communities. We're not involving the people who are truly affected by the criminal justice system, whether that be people's families, victims, businesses, community leaders. We need to have a whole systems approach when it comes to upgrading the justice system. And in terms of a people-powered movement, I like to refer to Rashford a lot in terms of his movement that he done in terms of the school meals. You know, if the people really get behind this movement, we can actually implement real change. And that is what it's going to take. We need the public on our side. We need businesses on our sides. We need community leaders, families, and victims on our side. They all need to be heard and they need to be listened to. And we need to create a justice system that speaks for everybody. So that's a little bit about our mission. I hope that I presented that well. Got a little bit tongue-tied, but yeah, really passionate about this work. Over to you, Sarah.
Lovely. Thanks, Cam. Thank you. And, you know, just listening to you, I think there's just something about everyone having a part to play. And I think everyone feeling that they have a voice that's heard. And I think that's what Justice 2.0 is about. I think it is about long-term transformation. A lot of the time we kind of work on this kind of short-term reactive basis, and I think there's something about us really spending some time thinking about what are the things that work really well, what are the things that are having a really good impact. And I'm really hopeful that we can do that in light of just going to conferences. For example, Singapore this year at the ICPA, there's a real thirst and there's a real need and there's a real acknowledgement that we need to really focus on supporting people to move away from crime, but also what resources they need in order to do that. So we really want to kind of transform culture. Culture is so important at so many levels, and it impacts on all of the programs that ever get delivered, the training that always gets delivered. I think it's all about, for me, having a cultural kind of foundation that's really, really positive. So for us, it's about empowering people. The answers are there, whether we know it from the academic work, whether we know it from the people that are on the ground, where we know it from the people behind the door in terms of prison. The answers are there, and I think it's about really getting down and really listening to those people really authentically and pulling that information together. So that's what for us it's all about. And so our strategy has 4 key areas, and they are all interconnected, and it's taken us a little bit of time to kind of figure it out, but I think this is absolutely the way we need to move forward. I think there's firstly something about setting up, I guess, our manifesto, which is Justice 2.0. It's about saying we want to change conversation around punishment. We want to have a collective campaign. We want to transform the system, and we want people to be involved in that. And it's not just about rehabilitation. I think that's a big problem. I think it's more about growth. It's more about flourishing. It's more about developing and investing in people. And the campaign is going to achieve that. And that's something that we will be launching in February. And as part of that, it's then about upgrading culture. So it's about how do we upgrade policies, practices, and processes, but how can we mobilize people to be the change that they seek? And we're going to talk a little bit about what that means, as well as how do we give people the resources to change the system and to challenge some of the culture that we've currently got that would be associated with Justice 1.0. And we're going to tell you a little bit about our qualification that we will be launching in February. But that's just one example of how we can give people the tools to feel empowered, give them the tools of communication, of confidence, of motivation, of engagement, of hope. And through that, we're able to have a collective voice. And then we've got our alliance, and our alliance is all about really focusing on those people that are early adopters, those that are really keen and passionate about change, whatever their specialism is and whatever they want to bring to the party almost. It's about saying, if you want to be part of it, then we welcome you and we celebrate you, and we would love to collaborate with you on this as part of the Growth Alliance. So the plan of the session is really to go through each part of our strategy and just tell you a little bit more about it. So I'm just going to pass over to Cam, who's going to talk to you a little bit about the campaign.
Yeah, so there are, I guess, 4 elements to our campaign that we are launching. One is, it's all about empowerment. You know, we want people to have a voice. We want to have a collective voice, and we want to basically have people who are passionate about the space to join in any way that they feel that they can, whether that is, you know, highlighting a good piece of practice through social media, through other organizations, what they're seeing happening on the ground, and to put a hashtag of Justice 2.0 within that, just to highlight that this is the way that we will need to move forward within our justice system. We also want to collaborate and innovate, so think creatively on how we can come together to solve some of the pressing issues that we have around the criminal justice system, especially, I guess, when it comes to punishment and staff well-being. I think that there is so many people that are just working really, really hard, I guess, with the tools that they have, and there is a discrepancy around what is happening on the ground and what is coming from above. And we just want to be able to, I guess, come together so that collectively we can start to address some of the issues that we have. We also want to amplify stories. So there's so much great news, great stories, success stories that are happening within our criminal justice system. but they're just being drowned out by the rhetoric of punishment and all of the bad things that happen within the criminal justice system. And it just drowns out the good news stories, the successes, the people who are turning their lives around. And I think that in terms of the narrative that it drives to our society, is feeding into, I guess, the Justice 1.0, which we are trying desperately to move away from. So yeah, we want people to support this by sharing stories of resilience, good news stories, people who are being successful, programs that are working and making a real impact, as well as organizations that are doing some phenomenal work within the criminal justice system. And lastly, we want people to commit to the long game. In terms of culture, they say it takes about 5 years to transform a culture. And that comes, I guess, with, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess it comes with that beating drum of it's not going to happen tomorrow. You know, I think everybody wants the quick win. Like, let's do a quick program and then that is going to fix it. And it don't. You know, we have to embed culture change. And that's only going to come from, I guess, us playing the long game with this and giving people the skills that they need to be effective at the work that they're doing within the criminal justice system. So we want people to stick with us because currently the place that we're in, nobody wants to be in this place. And there's so much good work that can go into it, but it's going to take time. And people just need to be aware of that. So yeah, I think that's a little bit about Justice 2.0 and I guess our collective campaign on what we're trying to achieve. There's some phenomenal organizations out there that we would love to work with, collaborate with. If you're somebody who is really passionate about the criminal justice system and making an impact, please do get in touch with us because together we are stronger. Over to you, Sarah.
Yeah, so I guess just a little bit about the Growth Alliance. So like I said, it's focusing on early adopters, but really looking at the kind of different roles that people want to play, like whether you are a supporter, which is just about using the hashtag, maybe it's about donations, maybe it's about engagement, maybe it's about coming to some of our events. It's just about giving what you can at this time, because we do appreciate that some people are, you know, really struggling. They're really struggling in terms of burnout, in terms of compassion fatigue. So supporters are people that think, do you know what, this is what I really, you know, I believe in courage and I believe in compassion and kindness and recognition and, you know, doing things in a really kind of evidence-based way, and people that sign up for that as a supporter. If you want to be a bit more active, we've then got a champion. So champions are those people that have got a specialism, that have got something that they really want to say, a pocket of criminal justice that they want to reform, and together we're going to work together to build that, supporting one another, providing different opportunities. And then we've got our influencers, which are all about those people that have maybe got you know, large following, that have got already kind of elevated voice within criminal justice, and them just supporting us and supporting, I guess, the values that are part of Justice 2.0. So strengthening those kind of alliances, but also referring maybe champions, referring supporters, encouraging people to use the hashtag. So again, really looking at wherever you sit, wherever you want to be part of it, whether you're a supporter or a champion or an influencer or a partner, if you're an organization, then we would love to hear from you. So I'm just going to hand over to Cam, who's going to talk a little bit about what that all means, I guess, in practical terms. Yeah. Over to you, Cam.
Brilliant. So the Growth Alliance is all about creating a space where people can come together and share knowledge, best practice, and I guess help to elevate people who are really keen to get involved in the space. So what we want to do is basically we want to create a community where we can come together and we can problem solve. And that could be through hackathons, which is something that we talk about quite a lot within our organizations. Like if we were to focus on one specific problem or one area and just get a collective team of people to work on how we can address this certain area of the criminal justice system, to come together and, you know, just really collaborate to try and make, I guess, make as much of an impact in these areas as possible. Apart from that, we also want people to jump on board and share content through social media to talk about the campaign, talk about what they're doing and how it aligns with Justice 2.0. Apart from that, there is also the sessions that we're going to be doing to provide people with the toolkits. So had a conversation today around what that could look like. So I guess that is whatever areas people are interested in, whether they want to do public speaking, whether they want to learn how to do presentations, whether they want to know where they can go to look for employment, or how to, I guess, navigate working in the criminal justice system or entering the criminal justice system. We want to build a community where people just help people, to help elevate their voices and give them the resources so that they can go and be change agents as well. We're also going to be designing a dashboard that provides an overview of all the impact as a collective. I think currently they're saying that our criminal justice system is costing £18 billion a year. But in terms of the impact that we're doing collectively, how much are we saving taxpayers? How much impact are we having on the ground? How many families are being reunited? How many people are going out and getting jobs or moving away from crime? And collectively, if we come together, we can make that impact a lot bigger. And I guess apart from that, we're going to be doing online training sessions as well for our champions to provide them with support to drive the social movement that we are creating. And we also, would like leaders and people in the space to come and help us support this and basically help to push this campaign out throughout their network as well. So that is a little bit about the Growth Alliance.
Thanks, Cam. Okay, so we're going to move on to the Growth Academy, and the Growth Academy is kind of the umbrella, and the idea is that we're going to create a number of different courses that can support growth for different people within criminal justice. But the first one we will be launching is our level 4 accredited course. So it's called Growing Professionals in Criminal Justice. It's for any professional who works with people who offend within the criminal justice space. And it's about how can we cross-pollinate, how can we learn from one another, and what are the kind of core skills that we might need in order to drive a culture that is more humane, more compassionate, more evidence-based, but also how we can really serve the staff. We have a really big retention crisis across criminal justice at the moment, and that is felt both nationally and internationally from our international work as well as our work at home. And so we want to create something that's going to inspire people, and it is a course that really focuses on how do we grow a professional so that they can be a cultural change agent. So these are some of the topics. There's some theory in it, but not an awful lot. It's really focusing on, here are the kind of core ideas around positive criminology. So stuff around desistance and strengths-based approaches and trauma and restorative justice, for example. Here's some of the ideas around that, but let's really focus on how do we apply that to everyday work? How do we make a difference? How do we make an impact? How can we reflect and grow as individuals along the way? And so we then have, once we have that kind of theory kind of module, it's then about relationships. It's then about reflective practice. So how do we really kind of self-reflect? How do we embed reflection into our work? How can we take responsibility for our own growth and really think about what are those kind of key principles that can help us find our voice, create a positive climate at work, connect with nature so that we can de-stress, so that it's a really holistic approach to staff well-being in a really genuine way. And then about growing professionals in terms of what does it mean to be a professional? How can we keep people well? How can we build proactive resilience? But also really think about some of these really big topics around moral injury, for example, or vicarious trauma, emotional intelligence, pro-social modeling. What are the things that any professional within this space might want to really learn about and kind of get their teeth into to really support them and enable them to kind of find their meaning and purpose and make the biggest difference possible. And then once we've kind of dedicated some time to serve our staff, it's then about saying, right, what are the skills that could really help you grow others, and how can you leave that legacy, whether that's around understanding how to motivate people, how to engage with people, what's going on internationally in terms of growing others, and ultimately the last chapter really thinking about culture change and how can we be leaders, how can we create a culture, how can we let go of some of those old culture cultures that don't serve us very well, and we would associate those to Justice 1.0. So there's something about keeping things. So in Justice 1.0, there's some great practices that are happening. We want to keep hold of those and integrate them into our upgrade, but there's also a lot of stuff that is holding us back and that we need to let go of. And I think the hackathons are about putting that stuff on the table and talking about those topics and talking about how we can get over those cultural challenges together, but also trying to gain some understanding, cultural competency, generational trends. What are the challenges that we've got going on at the minute? So our Growth Academy is really important in terms of people do the best with the resources they have, and we want to build resource across the board, internationally as well as nationally, to really serve our community, and that being our professionals and those that are working in this space. And so I guess what it looks like, the idea is that it will bring people together, that when you become part of the course, you will then also become part of the alliance. So you'll have that space where you can really think about continuous professional development. We'll have opportunities where we can really understand what's going on in terms of developing the course and really making it better year on year and year out. It's also about opening the course to international market in 2026, once we've gone through our pilot. So next year we want to have a cohort of 100 learners, and then it's then about opening up more broadly. So that's our plan. What's also really excited about this is that we have got international experts to come and have conversations on our course. So we've done a number of online conversations from people in Australia and in America and across the globe, really, to talk about what does good look like to them, and how can this course really help and really understand and disrupt maybe some of these kind of cultural problems that we're facing. So more information is going to be launched in February regarding the course, but it's really targeted at aspiring leaders, people that want to make a difference, but also people that may be coming out of prison or coming off a probation, supervision order or community sentence, and they want to go back into the field and be cultural change agents. So it's about how can we support their professionalization, how can we support their journey, and how can we promote them. So we're going to be offering scholarships as well as part of our package and offer to the community. But for us, it's really important to give people the knowledge of how to change culture, how to grow themselves, how for them to take responsibility for that growth, but also how they can leave the best legacy possible for those that are coming in terms of those staff that are behind them. So that's the academy. And then there's something about our culture change work. So we are looking at expanding our growth project provision. So currently we work in a number of prisons kind of globally, but looking at how can we support cultural change within those organizations, and we deliver that. And what I'm finding is that it's I guess taking too long. Maybe there's something about every 3 years when I go back into a new prison to start a growth project, because the project takes about 3 years, I just hear the same things, and that really brings so much sadness to me, in the sense that people remain stuck. Things remain really, really challenging. And so what we want to do is we want to create a growth project where people are trained, and that we get people initially from prison. So early adopters, 6 prisons will form a cohort. And then with that, we'll have 3 champions from each prison. And we will just create we've created an incredible curriculum. The diploma, the level 4 course is part of that. And with that, it's all about how can we empower, how can we give them the skills to support with their culture change, how can we step up support, but also step down support when they don't need it in a particular time or a particular place. How can we give them up-to-date, accessible research so they can apply that and they can advise people within culture? How can we cross-pollinate and create a support network where people are learning from one another and sharing good practice, so that it's really trauma informed and we're with them every step of the way. So our growth projects have been found to help retain staff, to build a good reputation of the prison, to reduce harm, as well as promote well-being. But ultimately, we want to create a sense of belonging on a much larger scale. And so our model is all about how can we train people to deliver this work, and how can we walk with them every step of the way to support them with that. So The handbook we're building out at the moment, and pretty much all of that is taking place. It's a 5-year program, and it's about designing this kind of curriculum, and then ultimately having a central space where we can talk and thrash out some of these commonalities that people are facing across the prison service initially, but also offering it to other organisations within the criminal justice space. We have our international online lectures, we have our reflective practice opportunities, and it's all about how can we create knowledge and make it really bite-sized, really accessible, but for busy practitioners, and how can we celebrate the success of those practitioners and those future leaders as we move forward. So our culture work we're really excited about. It's something that we've been doing for nearly a decade, and we've got great results, but what we're going to do is we want to make it bigger, and we want to make it bolder, and we want to empower more people. So we are going to be expanding our growth project provision from February of next year. So I'm now going to hand over to Cam, who's going to talk a little bit about, I guess, maybe one of our first hackathons, really. So one of our first kind of key topics, specific topics around upgrading culture. So over to you, Cam.
Thank you so much. So as part of our strategy, what we really want to do is to give the lived experience community a platform. We see that lived experience is being, I guess, talked about a lot more within the sector. It is being seen as something that can add a lot of value to those who are in the criminal justice system and those who are working in the criminal justice system. I think for us, there is still a lot of work that needs to be done around working with people with lived experience. There is still a lot of pitfalls or potholes that people who are trying to get into the sector have to go through. So with that, what we want to do is create a set of international guidelines of best practice of working with people with lived experience. And to that effect, we have created a survey that we are going to be launching this month. The link will follow this presentation, but we want to capture the voices of people who have got lived experience, who are working in the sector, who aspire to work in the sector, to basically get a real grounded view on their experiences, good and bad, so that we can collectively create some guidelines for organizations internationally to adopt in terms of working with people with lived experience of the criminal justice system. So we're going to be launching our survey this month. And then from there, we are going to be having a roundtable discussion with participants that want to be a part of it in February, where we'll basically be getting together and just thrashing out all of the data so that we can collectively, I guess, magnify this project and the reach of it. And then in April, we're going to be publishing our standards and looking at organizations who are like-minded to be adopting this and pushing this so that we can really have a global reach and set a standard of growth for organizations who want to work with people who have got lived experience. We're really excited about this piece of work, just because we know that there needs to be a baseline of what good practice looks like within the criminal justice system when you're working with people. There's a lot of barriers to entry. Sometimes people feel invisible, unheard, or unseen. And we're losing a lot of really, really good people who could have such a huge impact in the system because of some of the, I guess, the procedures, guidelines, or the way that people are working with people who have got lived experience. So we just want to create something that's really, I guess, collaborative, that has a global voice of people who have got experience of the criminal justice system, and for organizations to work with us to implement these best practices so that people who are coming into the sector feel supported, feel a part, feel they have a voice, and are protected in a sense as well. So thank you so much, Sarah. I'm going to pass it back over to you.
Lovely. And I guess it's just the wrap up really in terms of our presentation, but we've also got a couple of questions that have already kind of come in that we're really excited to answer. But for us, I think there's something about us being designers of the community. And I think, I spoke to someone today and just said, don't underestimate the impact that you have on individuals and I guess there's something about either the positive impact we have or the negative impact we have, but it's something about we do make an impact as we go through our work. And for me, there's just something about how can we magnify that, but how can we be a collective voice in this? How can we grow together? How can we challenge one another? There's going to be a lot of challenges. Appreciate many people might be thinking, do you know what, this is really idealistic. And that's okay. I think there's something about, we want critical friends, we want criticism, we want to hear your views in terms of what's happening. But I think there's something about we can do that together, and it can turn out to be a better place. But irrespective of where you are, we would love your investment, whether that's investment in terms of time, whether that's your investment in terms of passion, whether that's investment even in terms of kind of financial, donations, for example. There's something about, we would really love people to invest, and we are completely invested in it, and we completely believe it's possible, and we believe the time's now to do that. So we want to really think about, how can we reimagine knowledge? How can we really charge this system with lots of compassion, because it needs it at the minute? How can we courageously talk about the difficulties and honestly talk about that instead of having to hide it and feel shame around it? How can we really get that stuff on the table to build trust, to acknowledge our progress, to support people and celebrate them, so that we can really service our communities and park harm? So I'm just going to stop the presentation and stop sharing my screen, and then I'm going to ask some questions. I think the first one, so we got lots of questions when we sent out it to our dearest and nearest friends, I guess, within this community. But one I thought was particularly great, which we both loved, wasn't it, Cam, was about Justice 1.0. And the question was, from America, what are you keeping from 1.0, and what do you find needing to be replaced? So what does Justice 1.0 look like, I guess, to us? So Cam, go for it, and then I'll chip in after. So what do you think, Cam?
I think Justice 1.0 for me, when I think about it, is trying to fit everybody into the same box. That's one of the things for me. I think people are so individual, and not everybody learns the same, not everybody thinks the same, not everybody's interested in the same things. So we really want to, I guess, create a justice system that offers opportunities for all people from all walks of life, and no matter where you come from, we look to give you the tools to be able to move forward in a really positive way. I think some of the things from Justice 1.0 that are, I guess, in dire need of rectifying is, I guess for me, listening to the people on the ground. Simon Sinek is one of my, I guess, thought leaders, and he always says to, put the power where the information is. And the information is on the ground, and currently that is not being translated. It's like the decision making needs to go up to people who are not on the ground, who are going through the everyday struggles. And I think right now we need to flip that on its head and put the power where the people is, where the information is, because that's where I guess the best results of what is going to work and what isn't is going to be. Outside of that, Justice 1.0, the narrative around people in prison, that for me is one of the hugest things that I guess is the factor that holds a lot of people back. See so much great work going on in prison, people building capacity, building hope, even in tricky I guess conditions, and that hope quickly dissipates when people come back into the community and they don't have the right support and the right tools to be able to keep that flame of hope alive, that they can go and be a good parent, a good father, get a job and be a part of society. We need to, I guess, curb that kind of thinking that isolates people in terms of their past, where they've come from. I think a good example of this was the politician on from Labour who just resigned, from a spent conviction from 10 years ago. Like when is somebody's time actually up? When do people have the opportunity to move on with their life? I think I read an article from Paula Harriet, the CEO of Unlocked, in the Financial Times, saying basically that 1 in 4% of the working population have got a criminal record, or a criminal conviction. So why do we still act like it's such an alien thing? People make mistakes. We need to embrace them and give them opportunities so that they can move on with their life. I think encountering so many people that are desperate to turn it around, desperate to make a meaningful impact, and just haven't got the opportunity to, or the resource to, or there's so many barriers to people moving on with their life. I guess post relief from prison, this is something that we can really, I guess, drive down that reoffending rate if we just give people the tools that they need. So there's others that I guess are quite pertinent, but that goes a lot more higher in terms of the policies, some of the policies that are really harmful to people that work within the system, or aspire to work in the system, that needs to be upgraded. One thing that I see a lot of is us saying to the public, you need to give people a second chance, right? You need to welcome people with open arms when they're showing that they're moving forward and they're leaving their old behaviors behind. But I think HMPPS and Munch need to model that. It's not do as I say, it's do as I do. And I think people would be a lot more receptive if, I guess, people were leading by example and not telling people do as I say, not as I do. So, yeah, I just think there's so many barriers to entry, people that want to get into the space and make a difference. And that is a huge sign that people are on that transformation journey. When people want to give back, when people want to help other people, and where currently the system blocks a lot of that. I talk to people who are in probation. How many of them have got lived experience? The numbers are few and far between. Why? Because a stain on somebody's record from 10 years ago of who they used to be. Like, is that really growth? Is that really creating capacity within our society? I don't think it is. So those are some of my top lines. I could go on a lot deeper, but I'm just going to stop there and just hand it back over to Sarah.
Yeah. And I think, you said the word harm there. And I think for me, Justice 1.0, the things we've got to let go of are the things that where we harm people, like we did a thematic for the Inspectorate of Probation that was about what is the impact of the criminal justice system on the people that are in it with regards to their mental health. And it was a heartbreaking project to do, because the amount of harm the system in itself causes, I think that stuff needs to stop getting called out a little bit more, but not called out in a very blaming and shaming way. That's very Justice 1.0, isn't it? We're used to scapegoats and being blamed and thrown under the bus. I think there's something about compassionately trying to understand that is, and reconciliation and healing and that restorative kind of approach to Justice 1.0, because people do the best with the resources they have, and sometimes they don't have the resources to the point in which they cause harm. And I think there's something about how do we have a conversation about that, and how do we think about healing that. I think the other thing is that within justice reform, it's about what's sociable and what's not sociable and what's become normalized. And I think the difficulty with harm, particularly maybe within a prison environment, is that violence is becoming normalized. It's becoming every day for our officers that are stepping into that space. And I kind of think that just can't continue. They don't deserve that. Our AP staff don't deserve to be seen as invisible and the value not to be recognised. It's that kind of stuff that I really feel passionately about. And, Justice 1.0 is about saying, okay, these are some of the challenges that we've got. How are we going to resolve them? But also, I remember Gethin Jones talks about the smoking ban. And he said, do you remember, 20 years ago, I could have had a cigarette in a hospital, or I could have a cigarette on a plane. And if someone did that today, we'd be like, what are you doing? That's just that's so unsociable, And I think it's just a very easy way, and hopefully a non-threatening way, where we can say, do you know what, that's just really Justice 1.0. Like, we've upgraded, we've moved on. We want to focus on equality and compassion and evidence-based stuff. That's what Justice 2.0 is about. And some of this stuff, the the amount of sexual harassment that takes place still within our system is just very, very clear in my mind at the moment, in light of this year's, what I've experienced this year, and what I've heard from others. And I think that's just not acceptable. And let's just call that out and say, do you know what? We've got to really value what people can bring to the table. So yeah, for me, there's a lot in Justice 1.0 that we've got to keep. The passion that people have got, like you said, Cam, the amazing people that we meet. We are so privileged, whether that's people that work in charities, the staff that we worked with in NACRO a couple of months ago, charities that are doing wonderful things, prison officers that go the extra mile, probation staff that just don't take any breaks in a day because they just want to do a good job. We have had the privilege of working with all of these individuals, and we don't want to let them go. We just want to support an environment that upgrades them. So I hope we've answered that kind of question. Any other questions that anyone's got? Or Cam, have you got another one that we could maybe talk about in our last couple of minutes? How long we got? Oh no, we've only got in our last minute, because it's 2 minutes to 5. But is there a final thought then, maybe, in terms of what you kind of want to say?
Yeah, I think I'm just going to touch back on what you were saying about approved premises. We've been working with approved premises now nationally for about a year, just over a year, and there's some phenomenal people doing some great work. And my thought is, HMPPS stands for His Majesty's Prison and Probation Service, but approved premises never get a mention in that. And they have some of the most passionate, caring staff that I've ever come across, who have gone back, who could have gone to other areas, but want to help people move forward with their life in a really pro-social way, in a growth-orientated way, while protecting the public. And for me, there's something about the joint-up nature of HMPPS. Communication between prisons, probation, and approved premises, it's not where it needs to be, and we really need to get the basics right if we're trying to get the big things right. I guess on that, my final closing remarks are we can make a real difference in our justice system if we really work together, if we come together as a collective and we call out, I guess, bad practice, and we stand together and say that this is not acceptable. Only by working together are we really going to see the impact that we all want to see in society. That so many of the men and women that I've encountered in society don't want to go back. They want to live a good life. Staff don't want to be hurt or, basically taking on all of this trauma in their jobs. We got to think of everybody. Victims don't want people coming out and hurting other people. So we got to really look at our system and say, do you know what? Currently, this is not working, and we need to be brave. We need to be bold, and we need to make radical change in order for our justice system to be effective and serve the people.
Yeah, what you said, perfect. Thanks so much, and thanks for everyone who joined. Thanks for all your comments. Thanks for your questions. Our next kind of informal information session, like today, is going to be on the 19th of December. 12 to 1, fingers crossed if our live event works well. Just a big thank you to Justin, who organised it and was pretty swift in terms of troubleshooting. And thanks so much for coming. And if you've got any questions, and this is on YouTube, then just have a look at the little comment box down below, and we'll give you some details around the survey, but also about the website and how you can join and be a member of the Growth Alliance. So all the best, and thanks so much. Thanks, Cam, buddy. Love you loads. And thanks so much. All the best. Bye.